1 in 5 Americans suffer from chronic pain. Many are now using CBD for relief.
Activists are hoping pot could be legalized nationwide by the end of 2019.
When you look at premium cannabis, the Illinois House approved legalizing recreational marijuana.
Welcome to The Budding Report, a weekly show centered around all things cannabis. Please join us in welcoming our host, Charles Horton, and his co-host, Melissa Nasits, as they share the latest in cannabis news, conduct interviews with top leaders in the cannabis space, and promote some of the latest in science and innovation. And now to our host, Charles Horton.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Budding Report. Got a great show involved for you now here in Dallas. We are under a lot of rain. Used to summers here being pretty dry, but I think we got 4 or 5 inches of rain here at least already. They were saying, Melissa, that we could be as high as 5-6 inches of rain in our area. Are you getting a lot at your house?
I am, and I needed it, and I'm very happy. It's brought the temperatures down. It's been a good week, so I'll take the rain, as long as it doesn't continue for too long. That's why I live in sunshiny states.
I'm trying to sell my house, so I'm out. My front yard is a septic field, and so I'm wanting it greener. So I'm out there manually watering about an acre of grass, and got to kind of run it all day long every day to get it done. But with this rain going, I get to take some time off. My dog went running out this morning, and as he went through the yard, you could see the water splashing up into the air. So we have plenty of water on there.
No, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. I don't have to water the plants outside. It brings down the temperature, which I think has been the biggest thing. We've got a lot of the tropical ramifications from all the storms in the Gulf, so it's good.
Christian, how are you doing today?
Well, as you can see, it's a little bit opposite the rainy environment that you're having, but it's going well. It's good to see you guys.
You must have made somebody mad for them to push you off to the Sahara Desert today.
I keep thinking Dune. Maybe that's just my sci-fi background, but I just keep thinking George Herman's The Dune.
Or I guess White Sands is probably closer to you. That kind of looks like it could be White Sands. Chris, how's it down in Austin?
It's good. It just started raining here as well, causing my cats to actually come inside. One of them's okay with it because he's recently become a CBD user, and it's helping calm him down. And on a rainy day, he said nothing could be better.
And are you using a CBD made for specifically made for animals? I know that we had that as one episode, and it was interesting to learn what's good for them and what's not good for them in the human variety of CBD.
Absolutely, I am. I started out with one that I got at my local store. It was called Treatables. It had about 1.5 milligrams of CBD per treat. And then we moved on to something called Holista Pet just to see if they liked it a little more. And it does taste more like one of their favorite treats. So I do like the Holista Pet because it's also 2 milligrams per treat. And he seems to prefer that. Nice.
Well, I'm going to do a quick introduction of our guests because we're going to allow them to jump in on our discussion, our first discussion of what's going on in the law. But we have Adam Trenk from the Rose Law Group on. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome. Glad to have you. And then Chef Sebastian is joining us today. Where are you at, Chef Sebastian?
The Great Pacific Northwest. I'm in Portland, Oregon. Good morning,
you were used to a lot of rain then, so this wouldn't bother you at all.
No.
Okay, well, the first article today, and I'm gonna let the attorneys take most of this, but really excited to hear that the U.S. House is set to take up cannabis descheduling bill the week of September 21st. So we'll start with you, Chris. What's the bill about? What does it mean? What do you think the likelihood of anything happening is?
Yeah, absolutely. Love this bill. It was actually introduced by our Democratic Vice President nominee, Kamala Harris, in summer of 2019. It's called the MORE Act, Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, and it really does all of those things. So first of all, it decriminalizes marijuana, takes it off the scheduling, and it doesn't just do that. It also says we're going to retroactively apply it to anybody that had any federal convictions for cannabis dating back as long as they're still alive. So that's the expungement component of it. But I think what's really also exciting is this 5% sales tax that it includes at a federal level to create what's called an opportunity trust fund that does three things that I think are really great for social justice. First, it has a community reinvestment grant that helps the people that were victimized by the war on drugs in those communities of color, mostly Black communities. There's also the Cannabis Opportunity Grant, which provides money for people that are socially or economically disadvantaged people that are trying to enter the cannabis industry. And then it also has an equitable licensing grant, which grants money to programs that make it easier to get licensing for economically or socially disadvantaged. So I just love this bill. And I think your question about the likelihood of passing, I think there's almost 100% likelihood it'll pass the House, where marijuana legalization has become part of the Democratic platform. There are a few Republicans that are on board, but not enough probably to get it out of committee in the Senate, where Mitch McConnell is ruling today. So really probably cannabis, people who want cannabis to be legal in this country, probably the answer, if you want it as quick as possible, would probably be getting a Democratic Senate to flip, which is unlikely, but still possible.
Now, we talked earlier about Kamala Harris and being really tough on marijuana convictions, and a lot of people in the industry felt like when she was in California that when the DEA came down on the state, she was hands off, even though she took a lot of donations from the industry. Do you feel like she would be a good vice presidential candidate for the industry?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think we have to look at what she's done since becoming a senator, and what she's done in the last few years has really shown a commitment to criminal justice reform, with marijuana legalization being one of her primary attempts and actions. So I judge people by their recent actions. I'll admit, I was very skeptical of Kamala Harris when she first started running for president, but she's proven to me that she is committed to reform, especially in terms of cannabis.
Adam, let's go to you. What's your take? Let's start with Kamala Harris as vice president. What's your feeling on that regarding the industry?
Well, I think there's no doubt that a Democratic administration would probably be better for the marijuana industry as a whole nationwide than the Trump administration has been. If you remember, the Attorney General under Trump, when he first took office, spoke out against marijuana, and it had a brief but chilling effect on investment activity in the industry. My personal politics aside, I think if Biden and Harris were to win, hopefully we would see that marijuana come off of Schedule 1, become federally legal. Interstate commerce with marijuana products could then open up, and the industry would really have an opportunity to grow and flourish.
And let's go back to the bill that they're looking at on September 21st. What do you think of that bill? What excites you about it? Anything you don't like about it?
Nothing I don't like about it. I've always been one to say that the pendulum really needs to swing in the other direction. Instead of spending money to lock people up and police the streets, for marijuana crimes, we should be using marijuana as a source of tax revenue, and then using those monies to reinvest in our society by education and infrastructure primarily. And so I think that the bill is very thoughtful. I would hope that it would pass, although I am, cautiously optimistic at best. I don't, we've got the Banking Act that's been sitting there for quite some time that would allow existing, marijuana businesses that are legal, in whatever state jurisdictions they're operating in, to have access to our banking system, which they currently don't. And even though that was passed by the House, it's been sitting there. So, while I think it's a great measure, I'm not going to hold my breath.
Oh, I was just going to say the same thing as far as the House passing through the Banking Act, and then good chance that this will pass through. I think our biggest challenge is getting it through the Senate, and it being a Republican-based Senate. I think the smartest thing is we wait till after the election. We see if we get a few more Democratic candidates that get our senators come in, and depending on what happens with the presidential election, I think people will follow the like.
Trump's always said that he would sign the bills if they got to his desk. However, it sure has been a mixed message with Pete Sessions going after the industry in such a strong way, even though I guess he didn't really have the teeth to the way the law was written. But then that's out of the budget for the next time, and they could go after the industry again. Curious for both of your inputs on the 5% tax. When I read it the first time, I didn't realize that it was going towards charitable issues, and that's a great thing. But I also figure when you have a good amount of income coming in from something that you're not going to suddenly just stop it. So do you think the 5% is enough on a federal tax, or do you think there should be some going into the federal pockets as well? Either of you can speak up.
Well, I think 5% is good because the states could always add some more if they wanted. So I'm always in favor of keeping sales taxes a little bit as low as possible so you don't impede demand. Sometimes if you tax something too high, people will just go to some alternative. And I also am a firm believer that the government doesn't really need to tax to spend money as long as they keep inflation under control. So I'd prefer to keep the sales tax down and encourage cannabis consumption.
Adam, what do you think?
I can't disagree there. I mean, I'm a low tax advocate, although I do think that sales tax is a better way to generate revenue than income tax. And, for something like marijuana, which could be described as a vice and certainly is a discretionary purchase, if the tax were to be higher than 5%, it wouldn't offend me personally.
Anything to add here? Nope. Okay, Christian.
I was just interested, like to ask the attorneys, especially Chris, who seems to be quite familiar with the bill, if there were any provisions within it that kind of stipulated, if it was passed, whether there would be, a regulatory oversight with respect to the medicinal and health aspects of it, or was this simply focusing on the descheduling and decriminalization federally?
Yeah, Christian, this one's focused on the descheduling, and pretty much the title of this bill is what it encompasses. It's not a regulatory scheme bill. So it's basically decriminalization, expunging people's records, and then reinvesting with this federal tax.
So if it passes, then Chris, you're saying basically it would still remain with the states to regulate the marijuana industries within their jurisdictions, much in the way that they have been doing up until this point.
Absolutely, and that's why I think this bill has been talked about more as decriminalization than legalization, because the federal government isn't really creating a regulatory scheme at all with this, which would seem to go part and parcel with actually legalizing the substance.
Living in Texas, I'm still afraid, even if it gets federally descheduled, Texas is going to want to continue to stop it. And boy, I hope that's not the case.
Well, we are our own government. You know that.
Texas is our own country, or at least we want to be. So great, lively discussion. We're going to come back after this break with more of Adam from the Rose Law Group. Why am I having trouble saying Lowe's? See you right back after this.
Hello, coming to you from the outdoors where I do my heat training, and I did my repeats on the hills. It's actually pretty empty, but it's kind of close to 90 degrees. So that's when I squeeze in whatever I can, but I'm actually here to share what Simply Start, Simply Satisfy is. So this organic hemp oil, this is the serum Simply Start, and you can take it twice a day or once. I already took both of them in this morning, so now it's lunchtime. Real quick and easy, yummy, delicious, 30 calories. The other one is Simply Satisfy. So it's a spray, and also 3 sprays. You could do it once a day or twice a day. Again, I did it this morning. I'm doing it now at lunch. It helps you take care of your health and wellness. So learn more about them. Remember, 3 simple changes on how you can incorporate into your life. You can learn more at the link below. So stay safe and keep moving, keep training, and take care of your spirit, mind, and body.
And we're back. So we're joined now with Adam Trenk of Rose Law Group. I got it. We're glad to have Adam. He is the partner and director of the firm's Cannabis, Hemp, and Equine Law Departments. He's held this position in his law group as a premier hemp practice in Arizona. He's created that for his group. He has helped the Hemp Law Department and Department of Agriculture to formulate rules that govern the state's new and growing hemp industry. So welcome. We're glad to have you. So what is your involvement in the legal cannabis industry?
Thanks for having me. I serve sort of as an advisor, both a legal advisor and business advisor to participants in both the medical marijuana and hemp industries. And we do everything from, regulatory compliance, of course, to structuring deals with investors, partners, between suppliers, vendors, and landlords, and basically anything that you might think of that you need a lawyer for, with the exception of criminal defense. I'm a business attorney primarily, and if I go to court, it's because of a contractual dispute, not because charges were brought by the state.
Well, maybe you can team up with Chris if Chris wants to go to Arizona, because I think Chris likes the criminal portion of it. Speaking of criminal, what's the status of legal marijuana in Arizona right now?
So Arizona has had a medical marijuana law on the books now for about 10 years. In fact, that law passed at the ballot box the same year that I got out of law school. And so I've been working in this industry since its infancy. And basically, in a nutshell, there are somewhere around 100 to 115 dispensaries throughout the state. They're licensed by the Department of Health Services. And in order to patronize those dispensaries, you need to have a patient ID card, which basically, says that you have been diagnosed with a condition by a doctor and you've paid the fee to the state and now you've got access. Otherwise, marijuana remains illegal recreationally. There's no adult use law on the books currently. However, there is another ballot initiative that will be considered by the voters here in November. And if it passes, we will have legal recreational marijuana in our state.
Yay!
That's great.
Christian.
It being legalized in Arizona, what can individuals do to prepare for that opportunity?
So the most important thing that you have to do if you want to be eligible for one of the few recreational dispensary licenses that will be available if you don't already operate a medical marijuana dispensary, would be to identify locations where they are viable. The way this ballot initiative is written, the existing medical marijuana dispensaries will have first crack at getting the limited recreational dispensary licenses. And then in order to be eligible for a dispensary license, if you don't already run one of those medical dispensaries, you have to be in sort of an outlying area. So I would say that's really got to be your first step, is to identify those counties that are sort of underserved by medical marijuana dispensaries and find commercial locations that would be suitable as a dispensary, make a deal with the landlord and talk to the local zoning authorities to see if it's a viable location. The other things that you got to do, of course, you're going to need to be a resident of the state, I believe. And so if you are looking to invest from outside of Arizona, you probably should find a local partner who can sort of be the spearhead on the application. And you want to have your fiscal house in order. I do believe there will be, for lack of a better way to describe it, a means test, so that the state doesn't issue licenses to folks who are undercapitalized. The means test is sort of how I'm describing it, but when the medical marijuana licensure program was rolled out, they required a certain amount of money to be in the bank in order to be eligible. This way, they weren't giving licenses to businesses that would then fail and not, really being able to roll out the program as anticipated.
Chris.
Yes. Adam, where are the opportunities in the legal cannabis industry in Arizona?
I think there's a lot of opportunity, even if you don't have a license. There are, again, you can identify, real estate investments that might be, viable as a cultivation location or as a dispensary, and get in touch with those people who are licensed and make deals to rent that space to them. There are, ancillary businesses associated with the existing medical marijuana regulatory scheme. For example, packaging and delivery and things like that. And if you position yourself properly, you can make deals with these other companies to make some money in this industry, even though you haven't been lucky enough to get the license from the Department of Health Services yourself.
Well, it sounds like you're doing.
Of course, there's also legal hemp, which the barrier to entry is much lower than the medical marijuana business. If you're interested in being in a CBD business, or even the industrial hemp and making fibers and the other products that hemp is capable of going into, that's literally budding in our state. No pun intended.
Well, you mentioned that you do a lot of contracts, and as far as going into business, how could you benefit cannabis and marijuana stakeholders become successful in this?
I think if somebody comes to me and they don't already have a business plan put together, I can help them develop their business plan. I don't make business decisions for them, but I can sort of coach them along the way. If they are looking to apply for licensure, either medical or the pending recreational dispensaries, or in the hemp business, I can help them get their ducks in a row to make sure that they have a maximal opportunity for approval. And then, of course, looking to add value to their existing business operations. If they're already operating in this space, they're up on a lease renewal and they want to maximize the opportunity of either renewing the lease with their current landlord or finding an alternative location. I can help put that together. And then, if there are investors out there, we structure deals all day long to help raise capital so that, cultivation operations or processing operations can be expanded in order to better serve the market.
Well, that's amazing. I've always said it's good to have a lawyer in your corner, especially in this industry. What is it, a lawyer, a doctor, and a mechanic? We've got 2 out of 3, so we need a mechanic, right? We got a chef, too, so we're in good shape.
I think in our world, that means the chef is instead of the mechanic, we have the chef.
That works.
Adam, I'm very familiar with the challenges that plant-touching dispensaries and all face in California because of taxes. Not only do they have the federal tax limitation where they can't deduct the cost of goods sold, but then there's a lot of state and local and municipal taxes that really add up where they're not making a lot of money. Is that about the same in Arizona, or is that different at all?
Yeah, so the way the federal tax laws treat marijuana businesses would be the same between California and Arizona. Obviously the issues that are specific to California may be different here in our state, but overall, I think with the start of the quote-unquote green rush, the margins are probably not as great as people had hoped they would be, but demand remains strong and the product is reasonably inexpensive to bring to market. And so despite the burdensome tax regulations and the inability to write off your cost of goods sold and that kind of thing, there's still a lot of money to be made in this industry.
Hey, Charles, I wanted to throw out one question if we have time, since we're on this discussion. So as a physician, I'm interested in, the future of cannabinoid medicine, and I'm wondering if and how, and you might advise, if I'm a licensed physician and whether or not I need a separate license from the Board of Pharmacy within Arizona, can I have my own practice once marijuana becomes legalized in the state, and essentially distribute this, whether it's via prescription or not, to patients, or am I subject to a similar type of legal landscape that a dispensary would be?
So you would not be able to distribute marijuana under our state's current regulatory scheme as a physician. You could make a recommendation that your patients go see a doctor who is, authorized by the state to issue patient ID cards, but you would not have the ability to sell or to distribute it under the existing regulatory scheme or even the recreational bill that is on.
Chris, you have another question for Adam? You're muted.
Oh, we're muted there. Okay. No, I think we're good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I do have one other question for you, Adam. I know in Texas we have medical marijuana, but it's for a very narrow list, and it's very hard to get a prescription for, and then very hard to get the product when you do get the prescription. Is the medical rules in Arizona a lot more open?
I think they are. I don't know specifically what it's like in Texas. I don't think it is overly burdensome to get a patient ID card in Arizona. I think if you have any issues, and some of them may be a little bit more difficult to nail to the wall, if you will, like chronic pain or sleeplessness or what have you. As long as you have your primary care physician note that on your chart, and then go to one of these doctors who's capable of writing a prescription for an ID card. You show them your medical record, you pay the fee, and you get it. And I think, politically, it has loosened up in our state quite a bit. During the infancy of this program, there was a lot of skepticism about how it was going to be operated, and there was, as you might imagine, a tendency to, keep it restricted. And I think because the program has been well regulated and it is a source of tax revenue for the state of Arizona, it has become easier over the years. And I suspect that will lend itself to the passage of this bill in November for legal adult use, recreational use.
I remember when I was in California and they legalized medical marijuana, and basically you had to walk in with money and you could walk out with your medical card. It was very, very easy at that point.
Check here, you have this, or this.
Yes, basically. Mm-hmm.
Well, Adam, it's a
little bit tighter than that here in Arizona. Like I said, you have to have a medical record that indicates the presence of one of these problems or conditions. But it's not a high bar. It's not like, God forbid, you don't have to have cancer. You just have to have something wrong with you. And if you've been on this planet long enough, you probably got something that qualifies.
Well, Adam, it's been a fantastic time having you on the show. Thank you for coming on. For the viewers, if you want to get a hold of Adam, you can go to our website, thebuddingreport.com, and we have a list of all of our guests on the show. And this is Adam Trenk from the Rose Law Group, and I can't say Rose today. So we'll be right back after this message with Chef Sebastian, and he's a little fiery when it comes to the criminal parts of marijuana, but he's also a chef too. So we look forward to talking about both of those things. Be right back after this message.
Coming to you after our hike that we finished. Buster exercises 3 miles. Today is a recovery day because he did 8-mile hike over the weekend, broken up into 2. But what I want to share with you is this company here called Simple Changes. I learned about them and I absolutely love the concept. It's wellness, community, and organization. So as you can see here, I love the wrapping. I love purple, and it comes with 3 products. So I've been trying them out. First, it's the hemp oil spray. Then it's the hemp oil dropper and the hemp oil ball. So I'll be trying all of these out. I've been exploring them, exploring ingredients. I met with the team on Zoom. Really, really, really neat product. And I love the fact that they also want to incorporate healthy practices. So they come with a little journal and something about Simple Success Guide. So, Simple Changes.
Well, now I get to welcome Chef Sebastian Carosi. So he comes to us with over 25 years in restaurant and hospitality, graduate of Western Culinary Institute of Portland, Oregon, pioneer in the farm to fork movement, which is close to my heart, and one of the only 3 trained shaker chefs left in the world, which I'll have to hear about later. But I want to kick it off, and I'm assuming you're living in Portland, you're a cannabis user. What's your experience, and what have you seen over the course of your lifetime being a cannabis user, and what has it happened to you as far as legalization in the state of Portland, or state of Oregon?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on. For me, I actually live across the river in Washington State, which is about half a mile from Portland, Oregon. So I live in the Washington I-502, which is the legal expression for legal cannabis here. And for me, it's been a long journey. My father was a doctor for BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, lived in Arizona, on many, many reservations. And actually, I've lived in all but 7, 8 states in this country, and seen a lot of the cannabis. I was a cannabis outlaw at the time. It was illegal, and I was a heavy user of cannabis because of the health issues that I had. I was not just somebody that liked to get stoned, but I saw my father as a cannabis user, and being an MD, it helped him in many ways. And I was back in the 80s and 90s, so I had stole my first ounce from my dad. I'm sorry, Dad. And kind of went on from there. And then realized later, as a youngster, that there were economics involved with cannabis. And as you well know, everybody has those Scarface moments. So at the time, cannabis was almost $5,000 a pound. So I had set up a little distribution business in the outside of Seattle. And as a kid, I was trying to do the Rick Worst thing, white boy Rick, and try to make money. I wasn't addicted to cannabis. I was addicted to money at the time. And then later became addicted to cannabis and realized that the addiction wasn't a true addiction. It was just a lifestyle. And I got involved with food and cannabis, as we know, as an agricultural crop. So for me, it was kind of a natural for me to want to utilize cannabis in my cuisine and as medicine, so on and so forth.
Well, I love the cannabis outlaw. That was, I think that I will consider myself as a cannabis outlaw too, growing up in Arizona years and years ago. So what you talked a little bit about becoming a user of the plant. So what really made you kick off with want to do cooking or eating the devil's lettuce, so to speak?
Yeah, eating the devil's lettuce. So in the early 90s, I was going to culinary school, and I got in trouble. I got in trouble with a package of cannabis, a big package of cannabis. I was in a boat in the water off of the coast of Benigno and Seabeck, Washington, Straits of Juan de Fuca, and I was transporting some cannabis, and a Department of Wildlife boat decided to jump on me because they had seen me doing it regularly. That was like my third run that week. And I got caught, and I got a vacation. I had to do a vacation in the Washington State Penitentiary, Walla Walla, Clawland Bay, and McNeil Island for 5 years. I had a 7-year beef for the cannabis. And it really kind of gave me a little bit more direction because I was a kid, and then I just continued to be a user. And then I left Washington, and all of a sudden in 2008, Washington becomes the second state to recreationally legalize cannabis. And when you see a state that takes in 150 million in taxable cannabis dollars, that's an estimate of what they got since 2009. And when cannabis outsells diapers, firearms, milk, formula, so on and so forth, people are really starting to pay attention. And it's like you guys were talking earlier about the law for non-smokable flower or smokable flower in Texas, that they had changed the law or something. And because the law enforcement isn't able to differentiate between hemp and cannabis, and they're worried about it, so on and so forth. So my suggestion there is that if you like the thoughts of $150 million coming into your state to help in any economic situation, racial inequality situation, the good thing would be to just legalize cannabis. And I know they're not legalizing because they're not ready. They don't know what the hell to do. But a lot of these states have gotten on and have been really successful with it. I happen to be involved with one of the only USDA and FDA certified and approved hemp farm in the world that is licensed to sell my hemp as a microgreen, a salad green, and a juicing green. All these guys are growing their CBD, high strain, sour tsunami, so on and so forth, so that they can press it into CBD oil. But living in a legal state, I get my micro doses of CBD through my mega doses of THC, because as we all know on this panel, the entourage effect is real. So when you get states that are limiting the amount of THC by 0.3%, they're just limiting their dollars coming into their communities. So hopefully the politicians will wake the hell up sometime, you know?
Still kind of a mess here. I know you told me in our pre-interview you wouldn't live here because of it, but I believe Chris said that there was somebody in a small part or a small area, urban rural country, I'm sorry, that is doing 50 years for having edibles that were legal. But I know we don't want to get off on that tangent. But what are the benefits of eating versus smoking?
So for me, you lose a lot of the cannabinoids as they're passing through your body, but you're ingesting a lot of them as well. So the benefits for me, depending on whether you're talking about a processed concentrate made into an edible, or you're talking about the plant raw. If you're talking about the plant, cannabis raw, the amount of THCA, CBDA, and the entire alphabet list of components that you can find in there that are beneficial to the body that are non-activated. Those THCA and CBDA in just the most pure form of vegetarian protein available on this planet is found in the hemp and cannabis plant. More than spinach, more than anything you'll ever find. The dietary protein is so readily available in there that, well, that's why they can make paper out of the substance. So when we start thinking about that, in our body, and well, there's 8,000 strains listed, cultivars as you want to call them, on Leafly, but yet there's chefs that can't name 5 strains, or what I like to call varieties of kinds of carrots. So imagine what's happening with this agriculturally, and that's kind of the stance that I've taken. Is you guys wanted to hear me talk about the expungement issue, and I'll jump around. I'm sorry about that, but the expungement issue became important to me because after doing 5.5 years in the penitentiary and then getting out and working for the Bush family in Kennebunkport, Maine at Walker Point, well, the jaded part was gone because I thought, first of all, I just did time. The stigmata of doing time is going to be there. I'm not going to get a job. I'm not going to get this. They're going to look at me crazy. I'm a cannabis outlaw, criminal, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't allow that to happen for me. And it oppressed me in many ways and many times with many jobs, but I wasn't going to let it just destroy me. So the expungement issue with the MORE Act that's coming on that you talked about, Kamala Harris supporting, it's great to think about expungement, but my crime was over 22 years ago. So for me to think about, and this is the other factor that I put on the table right away, is that expungement takes a lawyer. If not, it takes money. Even the states that are going to start processing all these expungements, the monies have to come from somewhere. The employees are working, yes, but the allocation of some kind of money has got to be put towards the expungement and the work that you're going to do, because the work that it took to put all these criminals, so-called criminals, cannabis criminals in jail cost a whole hell of a lot of money. Keeping them day by day kept a whole lot of money. And somebody doing 50 years for a CBD product, you taxpayers are paying the money for it. And it's like, get loud about it. Get loud and do something about it. You're paying the people that are your politicians that are making these laws. And I was in Texas, man. And I tell you what, I was scared. It's like going to Idaho for me. I was scared to carry my own medicine, and that kind of sucks. So getting back to the expungement thing, for me right now, it's just another way for a lawyer to make money. I'm sorry about the lawyers on the panel. They weren't criminal. I think one is criminal, the other one's not. But it's a money-making opportunity that is so economically fleecing of the cannabis industry. It boils down to 2 types of people in this. There's 2 types of people in this industry. There's those that are out to make money and those that are not. Plain and simple. We have to make a living, yes, but our level of living is basically determined upon ourselves. And I don't have the mentality to want to drive a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. I have the mentality that I want to help people through food, and full spectrum, clean cannabis consumption through food is the only way that I have to put that forward to people, Sorry, I don't even let you guys talk. Come on, give me some questions.
I will say that as a chef, I think that that's probably one of the most true things that I know of a true chef is that they want to speak through their food. They want to help people through their food. They want to give pleasure through the thing that they create. So, I tip my hat to you for that.
Thanks. It's really the only outlet we have,
Christian, to you.
Yeah, we've recently had a couple of chefs on the show because I think it's again, one of the many budding sub-industries within the cannabis industry. And so I'd like to get your take on what you believe is kind of the current and future potential of ingestible cannabis products, edible, so to speak.
Good question, Christian. Well, so when we talk about these edibles, we talk about the fact that we legalized and recreationalized in the 11 states that we have recreational now under the auspice of medicine. But yet we go into these pot shops, dispensaries, cannabis stores, whatever you want to call them. Oh, hell, you can go into a gas station and get cannabinoids now. Can I get a fill up and some CBD gummies? But you're really just buying sugar, and that's the problem. It's like the carrier for cannabinoids now is sugar, and that is exactly the opposite of what this was intended for. And it's kind of shitty for me to have to sit back and see it happen and unfold like this, because I want people to realize that, it's just like the cartridges and distillate. We have these people in other states that aren't legal, and they all smoke a cartridge because they think, it's like a cigarette. It's like they'll never know it's cannabinoids. But what they're smoking is distillate. And distillate is the modified corn syrup of the cannabis industry. It has been stripped of every damn vital terpene and component except for THC and CBD. So they're smoking on it, and it's like there's no entourage effect. There's no anything. You're just getting high, and you're smoking on it you're smoking on it to kill yourself because it's oxymoronical. You've seen the problems that are coming with these carts. So this distillate that they're running in these systems that are stripping it of all these terpenes, and then they're selling it to people. And a cartridge is sold to people, some people, is $60. What the hell are you going to strip all of the good parts out of it, thin it down, and then sell it to people at such a high marked up value price? It's so ridiculous. And a passion of mine is to see not only the environmental friendly packaging come online, because I smoke oil, I smoke concentrate, and I live in an environmentally friendly place, but this is my week's jar of containers that are non-recyclable. There's no store that will give them back. So I end up with 7,000 containers, and the environment gets to hurt for it. So these are things that need to be addressed versus what we're going to invest in and what we're going to put our money towards and who's going to legalize. And every state right now already has cannabis in place. The only difference is the politicians aren't collecting the loot in certain states. When they get the practice of knowing how to collect the loot, they'll jump on. Idaho, Texas, I know it'll take a lot longer, but people are waking up. People are waking up. So if we can just realistically keep educating through these things, the shows, the food, you guys getting on there and talking about people that are investing. Cannabis is a moral issue because of the sociality of it. So when I see companies, and I'm going to get real raw right here, and you guys might have to bleep some shit out or do what you got to do. But when I see people getting excited about people like Mike Tyson opening a cannabis business, you got to shake your head and say, wait a minute, you're supporting a convicted rapist and sex offender. And just because he's in the cannabis industry, you all of a sudden want to give him praise and take your picture with him at an event. You're taking a picture with a sex offender. So look at the whole morality of what's happening with cannabis. Don't just think about cannabis as this solvent for every problem on the planet. Jack Harris said a long time ago that it could save the planet. But look how much we're destroying the planet before we get to save it. So, I just hope everybody kind of gets on the bandwagon of the things that matter. We're going to have the distillate, so maybe not buy it so much. We're going to have all the sugar-laden products, so vote with your buying dollars and don't buy it so much. But we all know that there is no drive-through in America that's going to close anytime soon, so we'll just have to deal with it.
Chris, last question to you. Chris, you're muted.
Sorry about that. So you mentioned in your answer to Dr. Shaw that something about terpenes, and I was curious about your how you would use the terpenes in your cooking to affect flavor, and then also as a side note, why do people act like it's something new when terpenes have been in cannabis from
Terpenes
time
have been in
immemorial?
cannabis. Terpenes have been in our world. And the thing is that if you are somebody that has taken the time to smell the roses, well, you know what terpenes are, because generally that's geraniol, limonene, and that rose. So terpenes are not new, but they're a new advertisement ploy for the cannabis industry to use to attract people that are in a different sector of purchase, which would be the people that are into the aromatherapy, so on and so forth. These things aren't new. Lavender has always been known to be calming. It contains linalool. So if you have linalool in cannabis at 2%, or myrcene, which is found in mangoes, at 2% or 3%, and you consume that certain cultivar and it hits you right, you're able to concentrate, focus, sleep, whatever it is. Stick with it. Learn more about the terpene profile of it. We have places that don't give a terpene profile. I'm just going to pull the California product out real quick. I'm not trying to get on anybody, but this is a California product. This is from one of the largest cannabis companies in the country. It's from Hush. They're owned by Halo out of Massachusetts, but they just give a terpene count. It just says 4% terpenes on there. But I like to know if it's 1% myrcene, 1% beta-caryophyllene, because those things jump us back to the entourage effect and the overall aspects and effects that cannabis is going to have on us. And they're hugely important. So flavonoids, terpenes, and the cannabinoids, those are the things that we need to look at. And if you've taken a hike before and you've smelled pine trees, well, you've smelled alpha-pinene and pinene. Terpenes are hugely important.
Well, Chef Sebastian, you are probably the most passionate speaker that we've had on the show, and it makes it a lot more interesting. Look forward to having you on again soon. I love your energy. Thank you for taking the time to be on. Thank you again to Adam for being on and joining us. Again, remember, you can contact either of these people by going to our website at the Budding Report and looking up any of our guests. Reach out to them. We're all about making connections and contacts, doing business deals together. So please reach out and do that. Look forward to you coming on for the next Budding Report, and our guests will be Chase Nobles, co-CEO of Kush.com, our sponsor, and Joe Coates, sales development at Kush.com. So look forward to you coming on and being on with them on our next episode. For now, go out, have a great day. Make your dreams come true. Have a good day.